Welcome back to the Dark Reading News Desk. Terry Sweeney here, contributing editor with Dark Reading News. I am happy to welcome back Dr. Renée Burton, VP of Threat Intel for Infoblox. It's nice to see a familiar and welcome face on News Desk. Renée, good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you again. Thanks very much.
We are talking about what lurks in the shadows. And luckily we have DNS as a great illuminating tool to help us there. Not just the bad actors, but the truly malicious ones. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Let's start with just talking a bit about what Infoblox Threat Intel does, what makes it unique, and why DNS is such a great tool for the kinds of activities we're talking about.
Yeah, so we've talked a few times in the past, right? So Infoblox Threat Intel provides the intelligence for Infoblox DNS products. And a couple of years ago, we decided to completely reimagine, what does that mean? How do I protect things with DNS? And to do so, we ended up building a totally specialized purpose infrastructure that we work with, but also focusing very heavily on the topic matter. So we're the only people in the industry who focus specifically on DNS and what I can get out of it. And what that allows us to do then is to use DNS as a powerful control point, since it's the first point in most activity with a threat actor, right? You can smash them down very quickly. But because it's also so powerful, if you get it wrong, you get it really wrong. And so that was part of the reimagining, right?
Okay.
Is I really need to be specialized in this area, and the way I'm able to do it is to focus. And then once we focused, you start uncovering all of this stuff. And we've been able to release a bunch of publications, which each one was something unique and new in the industry over the last 18 months.
Among your findings has been the discovery of something called sitting ducks, which I believe was done in partnership with Eclipsium. Infoblox found that multiple cyber criminal groups were abusing various stolen domains. Tell us about how you discovered this trail of hijacked domains using DNS, and why this is something that companies should really pay attention to.
Yeah, so sitting ducks, I think the three things to keep in mind about it is it's extremely easy to perform, it's extremely hard to detect, and it's entirely preventable. So those three things themselves are things that we should be concerned about. And the way it came about was we were looking at a specific threat actor that was running something that's called the 404 TDS. That TDS traffic distribution system was first found by Proofpoint, as documented by Proofpoint. And we started understanding, they're mail guys, right? And they're very good at that. We started trying to look at what is the DNS of this actor. And we realized that threat actor was stealing all of the domains. But the question became, how can they possibly be stealing these domains? There's so many of them, and they're like big brands. They're like really important, so how could that happen? What ended up happening was we partnered with Eclipsium. It was amazing partnership, and really dug in and found that, in fact, the threat actors, who are predominantly, so far in our findings, are predominantly Russian cyber criminals, are taking advantage of a gap in logic that happens when you have a registrar where you register a domain,
right,
and then you have a DNS provider like your web hosting provider, or you might have a separate DNS service. There's a gap between these two things, and you kind of forget about the domain. And the actor just comes in and says, I'll take that. And then they have it, but you don't know, your registrar doesn't know, the world doesn't know. As far as the world knows, that domain was registered with Mark Monitor or GoDaddy or anything like that. And they use them for a little while, and then they drop them back down again. So they've created this kind of lending library in the Russian cyber criminal world.
Do they also rely on the confusion by dropping in Cyrillic letters into domains as well? Is that part of the scam?
No, they're really taking high brand domains. So they'll take, there's a bunch from Hard Rock Cafe, there's ones that belong to CBS, bunch of big newspapers, things like that. And those are domains sometimes that were defensively registered. You as a corporation, I mean, Dark Reading might have done this, right? You register like lookalikes so that no one can pretend to be you. but then you forgot about them.
Okay.
And then they're like, oh, I get that for free. I get to get the dark reading for free and take advantage of that.
Okay, so that's the crack in the levee.
Yep, that's
then.
the crack, this
Okay.
little negligence, yep.
Shifting gears slightly, Infoblox also has released some other research regarding Vigorish Viper, which is such a great name. This is a Chinese syndicate that's taking advantage of a $1.7 trillion illegal gambling economy. Is this accurate? Tell us a bit about how they connect digital and real-world crimes with links to money laundering and human trafficking. I mean, this is dangerous stuff. What is helping them do this so easily?
Yeah, so we're talking about this at Black Hat, by the way, so a longer talk is available. We'll try to do in our couple of minutes here. Vigorish Viper, which is a mafia word for exorbitant fees that you would put on somebody who's lost, a gambler who's lost money. We tend to call them VIG because it's short.
Okay.
What they're doing is they're taking advantage of sports sponsorships, particularly in Europe and football teams. And what that allows them to do is get their logos on a shirt, like on the front, the back, or a side of a shirt, or along the side of a stadium. Then that gets portrayed back to China, Greater China. People see, oh my gosh, my favorite team is doing this, there, and I can bet on them and gamble. And as a result of that, they then lure them in to these great pyramid schemes. They are involved in human trafficking, money laundering, and slave encampments in Southeast Asia. It's something taken straight from the movies. I mean, it's a really crazy scenario.
Wow. Can you say more about how the DNS system was used to uncover all of their bad activities?
Yeah. So again, that's all we do is in DNS. So we always start with DNS. And in this case, the criminal syndicate, they've developed their own technology stack and they run an entire DNS infrastructure. They're big. They own multiple companies. They own software development companies. They own ISPs. So what we were able to do is find the DNS fingerprints for these organizations and bring them together and realize that they were all one.
Okay.
We were leveraging, there's other work done by watchdog organizations and journalists which had pointed out these guys are bad and these guys are bad and these guys are bad. And what we were able to see with DNS is all of these bad guys, they're the same thing. They're all one organization.
Right. Renée, take us out with a couple steps that organizations can take to secure their networks and their data against these kinds of actors.
Yeah, so the first thing to remember, right, is DNS really is the first point that most connection with bad activities is happening. You need to, first and foremost, control your DNS, know where your DNS is going to, and then wherever possible, purchase something like ourselves or someone else where you have a protective DNS. You're getting DNS blocking based on a wide variety of things, because in DNS you can block things that you cannot possibly block elsewhere in the security stack.
Well, Renée, once again, I walk away from our conversation a little better informed, but a lot more nervous. Thank you for schooling me in mafia lingo and the powers of DNS. Appreciate you doing News Desk.
Right, thank you so much, appreciate it.
We've been talking with Dr. Renée Burton, Vice President of Threat Intel with Infoblox. This has been Terry Sweeney for the Dark Reading News Desk. Thanks for joining us.